today. And, it's also part of, as we come to the close, of just recognizing the contributions of our Latino communities across the world, and the effect that they have had, in our respective local communities. And that's something that I want to just also thank Rodney for, and kind of really broadening the breadth of our perspectives, as a charge to me as a program chair, to ensuring that we're bringing voices from everywhere, that comprises Colorado Springs. And I always interview, or not interview, I shouldn't say that. I always have a conversation with each of our guests ahead of time, just to get a background knowledge of them. Of course, me being newer here to the Springs, I don't have the histories as maybe many of you do with some of these speakers. But it also allows me to hear just a real one-to-one conversation. And I'll tell you, Mr. Aldaz is just an amazing gentleman that I've only really had some brief conversations with, but we are in for a treat today. As many of you know who he is, he has a strong presence here in our local community. He is currently the CEO and president of the Colorado Springs Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And I think he's going to have a powerful story to tell us. One, just the economic viability and impact the Hispanic community has here locally in Colorado Springs, and the history of such. He's a longtime resident. His kids went through the school systems here, albeit they ended up in D20 instead of D11. But I will say D11 is the most diverse school district in the central part of our city, with about 50% of our students being students of color. And of that, about 35 or so percent are Hispanic students. And so it's a growing population that we see in our community. And I know that the story of the Latino population within D11 and the broader Colorado Springs is rich and is deep. He is very well respected and revered in our community, and an active member also with the Chamber of Commerce locally here as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Joe Aldaz to grace us with his words today. I thank you in advance. Mr. Aldaz.
Thank you. I really appreciate that introduction. And thank you for having me today to present a little bit about the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and then dive into what I call the new Latino paradigm, which will really focus on the impact of Latinos on our economy. I've been, as Dr. Thomas mentioned, I have been here since 1999, retired from the Air Force in 2004, and then have had a variety of roles in the nonprofit sector here in Colorado Springs and in Pueblo, Colorado, and have served on a lot of community boards. So built a large community network. I know several of the individuals in the Colorado Springs Rotary, Brad Butler, Tom Naughton. I've had a private conversation already with Ron Rubin, who's a Ratonian from northeastern New Mexico, little town, Raton, New Mexico. So shared some brief stories there. So very glad to have this opportunity. And so I will dive right in here and begin the presentation. So I'm going to share the screen and let me know if you see that.
We see it.
All right. Well, the motto that we work from in the Colorado Springs Hispanic Chamber is working together, we can do more. Since I've been part of this chamber for a little over 2 years, I think it's very important that we are a collaborative and partnering type organization in order to leverage and do better work in our community. As you know, every organization has a mission. Our mission is to promote and serve Hispanic business and its members, creating, developing, and improving business growth and sustainability. We want to be that premier business resource in the greater Colorado Springs area. This is our board of directors. We've evolved from when I began work with the chamber from about 5 board members to 10, growing to our capacity of 13. Very passionate individuals, small business owners, members of larger corporations in Colorado Springs. And we are an all volunteer board, a working board, which does a lot of the work comparable to what a larger chamber would do. A little bit about the history. In 1989, we were incorporated as the Hispanic Chamber. One of the founding members was our former mayor, Lionel Rivera. My initial first role with the Hispanic Chamber is I served as their president and CEO from 2006 to 2007. I left that position to be the regional director for the Rocky Mountain USO. And in 2009, unfortunately, the Hispanic Chamber closed its operations. 4 community leaders in 2016 came together and resurrected the chamber as the Colorado Springs Hispanic Business Council. And in January of 2018, after some convincing, they brought me back on the board. And in June of 2018, they asked me to serve as their board chair. Since then, I've transitioned to be their part-time president. Beginning in April 2020, I'm a part-time staff member for them now. And in July of 2018, we were having a difficult time for our community to understand what the Hispanic Business Council role was. So we added the tagline to the end of our title, the Hispanic Chamber. We are a minority chamber focused on not only Hispanic-owned businesses, but small businesses in the Pikes Peak region. A little bit about our accomplishments. Since June of 2018, our membership has grown from 22 members to 156, then an 86% increase. We've had over a 95% increase in revenue since June of 2018. We've established our Hispanic Chamber Education Foundation. And as I mentioned, we are very focused on developing key business partnerships. And as you can see there, we have a strong relationship with the Colorado Springs Business Journal, the Small Business Development Center, and the list goes on. Very important that we are connected to these organizations to have a voice, to try to influence change as we see the community grow and the Latino population here in Colorado Springs grows. So very important to have those partnerships. We also were very fortunate in September of 2019 to host our Hispanic Chamber Hispanic Heritage Business Luncheon. And we feature Ramiro Cavazos, who is the president and CEO of the United States Hispanic Chamber. We took advantage of that opportunity while he was here. We had just earlier submitted a proposal to host the national convention, and we were one of 3 Hispanic Chamber finalists to host the 2020 convention. The selection was given to Boca Raton, Florida. However, as you know, we've pivoted to a virtual format, and this year's conference was a virtual conference. There's been no decision made on the 2021 national conference, but we are hopeful due to some previous discussions that we will continue to be in the running for the next conference, and hopefully an in-person conference here in the great community of Colorado Springs. We are always trying to gain influence and a voice here in Colorado Springs. And for the first time ever, we have 2 Hispanic Chamber representatives serving on the Colorado Springs Chamber and EDC Board of Directors. Myself and our board chair, who was appointed to serve a 3-year term beginning in January 2021, Ramon Alvarez, who is a small business owner, semi-retired from corporate America, and recently purchased last year Minuteman Press. In September 2020, I was fortunate to be appointed to the Law Enforcement Transparency and Accountability Commission. I think that's a very important role to see what the climate is in our law enforcement and how we can work together as a community and a commission to make responsible changes as it relates to our law enforcement and policies and procedures that are ongoing in that organization. Our influence continues to grow as Elizabeth Mota was recognized as the 2019 Accolades Minority Business of the Year award winner through the Southern Colorado Women's Chamber. We have developed a strategic partnership with the City of Colorado Springs. We have ongoing discussions of the type of services and work we will be providing for them in the future. And we were recently a Small Chamber Award nominee for the recent National Conference with the United States Hispanic Chamber. And the last point here that I think is very important, we have a part-time staff of myself and a member services coordinator and an all-volunteer board of directors. And since January through the end of this year, we will have hosted 41 special events, not only for our business members, but for the community at large. As you know, when the pandemic hit in March, we were forced to kind of make a pivot with our operations. Our board decided that we will not do any in-person events for the remainder of the year. So we did a pivot to digital programming. And as you can see there, we offer a variety of programming, not only to our business members, but business prospects and the broader community. Our board of directors decided to make all of our events for the remainder of the year, beginning in April, free events for our community. So we have a small business education lunch and learn series that we host primarily on Wednesday from 11 to 12:30. We are partnered with the Pikes Peak Region Small Business Development Center with their Minority Informed series. We also host an on-value speaker series, of which we do once per month. And that format is we host a national level speaker who is speaking on leadership and character and its impact on business. Our last speaker will be hosted in November, and we are bringing Air Force Academy alumnus, a White House fellow, commentator on many of the cable news networks, Charles Garcia. Not only do we want to help our small businesses in education and training, we know the challenges that many of our businesses are dealing with right now. So we want to provide a segue and an outlet to something that's more social and more relaxing. So what we have been hosting are cocktails and conversation, of where we bring in Latino entertainers, sports figures, to basically have a cocktail, relax, and talk about their life and their career in the particular industry. We follow that up on the fourth Friday of each month with our Evening With series, where we host live stream entertainment ranging from smooth jazz artists to Latino musicians. And as an example, this Friday night, beginning at 7 p.m., we'll be hosting a Latin fusion rock band who has a variety of different music, who will be performing live from Austin, Texas, Del Castillo. And then, as many organizations have, we want to recognize those small businesses that are doing great work in our community. We'll be hosting virtually our Excelencia Business Awards. And as you can see, I'll just kind of go through these. Our small business education lunch and learn series, variety of great keynote speakers who are providing some great education to our small business. Currently right now on Tuesday next week, in the middle gentleman there, Charmus Lee, he will be giving his second part of his Run Your Race series, The Anatomy of a World-Class Day. In that left bottom corner, we are partnered with the Southern Colorado Women's Chamber, and we are hosting a 5-part series with Kelly McDonald on the topic is Leading Through Crisis, and we will have our second part of her series on Wednesday next week. And these are lunch and learn series from 11:30 to 12:30. Spoke briefly about our Minority Informed series. A variety of topics have been discussed on diversity, inclusion, emotional intelligence, implicit bias, very important topics today due to the current climate that we're operating in. Our On Value Speaker Series, a variety of speakers ranging from our local U.S. Paralympian, John Register on the bottom right corner, to DJ Vanis, a Native American who is an Air Force Academy graduate and now provides speaking on a variety of topics, now based out of San Diego. Juana Bordas in the left-hand corner there from Denver, who runs the Mestiza Leadership International. So a variety of speakers who give their perspective this year on leadership and character and their impact on business. Cocktails and Conversation, Latino entertainers. Many of you probably recognize that middle figure there, Joe Scott, who is the returning Air Force men's basketball coach. We had a great conversation with him on how he is going to resurrect the Air Force men's basketball program to its glory days of when he was first here and took them to the NCAA tournament. Many of you probably recognized up there in the top corner there, Rick Barry, who now is a Colorado Springs resident, an NBA Hall of Famer. So those are, again, our very casual conversations that we have. Our Evening With series, we've had a variety of performing artists ranging from a local national smooth jazz artist in the bottom left corner, Tony Exum Jr., to Ricardo Pena y Los Bohemios up in that top left corner. All of these, again, are free events, great musical entertainment that we offer to our community. And we're really excited to end our series in November in the bottom right-hand corner with a reggaeton group called Shaka y Dres. They were born in Belgium from El Salvadorian parents, returned to El Salvador, and they'll be performing their live brand of music live from El Salvador on November 13th. And then we have our Excelencia Business Awards, which we will do a host on November 12th virtually. And we have 5 categories ranging from our Legacy Award, which is our Lifetime Achievement Award, all the way down to an Emerging Business of the Year. So what does 2021 and beyond look like? We are making a commitment in the spring next year to return to in-person type events, following those guidelines that will be in place. Our membership has mentioned to us in a survey that they want to return to in-person events, understanding the current health guidelines that are out there, but it's very important for them to start to connect again and develop member-to-member business within our chamber. We also are going to host a new event called Café con Amigos, which is basically a very social networking event over coffee in the morning, looking to continue to do our education lunch and learn series. And then we're going to continue our speaker series. And next year, we're looking to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. This year in August, we were going to have our major signature event called La Vida 2020. We had to postpone that, as you all know. And next year, we continue to plan to host it on August 27th. And La Vida 2020 is an outdoor Latino culture social event where you have the chance to try Latin cuisine, Latin-infused beverages, all in a very social environment at the Country Club of Colorado at the Cheyenne Mountain Resort, and listen to great Latin-fused music. We are going to be a sponsor and partner with the Business Journal next year with their CEO Leadership Lesson Series. We're collaborating closely with the Chamber, the Women's Chamber, and we have already started and continue to do a lot of advocacy work in changing the complexion of our community boards and our leadership programs. As we look out throughout the community, we know the influential boards and how they influence the work in our community. And when you look at those boards, they do not look like Colorado Springs. And we are working to develop emerging leaders within our Latino community to have the opportunity to sit on many of these boards. One of these boards that is currently in transition is the Colorado Springs Chamber Board. Myself, Rodney, who is now your president, and other minority leaders are now have seats on that board. And I think there's going to be a continued transition and more diversity inclusion on that board. And we're looking to see how other boards will change to reflect that demographic that Colorado Springs shows. We also are going to launch the Adelante Leadership Institute with our first projected cohort of participants in May of 2020. This Leadership Institute is designed to help emerging Latino leaders and other minority leaders in our community get a foothold on civic engagement and action in our community. We've seen through our research that the current leadership programs here in Colorado Springs are not serving our community well. As an example, the Colorado Springs Leadership Institute started in 1996, and as of today, only 18 of 399 participants have been of Hispanic heritage, and that needs to change. So we are going to come up with an alternative to this program to provide those minority groups the opportunity to build their leadership skills and make an impact on our great community here in Colorado Springs. La Vida 2020, now 2021, we spoke briefly about that, but I want to get now into the real crux of this presentation, the new Latino paradigm. I collaborated with a colleague to develop this presentation to enlighten you and to enlighten our community on the impact Latinos are truly making, not only here in Colorado Springs, but across the United States. The growth of the Latino population. By 2050, population estimates predict 1 in 3 Americans will be Latino. In Colorado, more than 21% of the population is Latino, with an average age of 26 compared to 42 for non-Hispanic whites. 1 in 4 Coloradans will be Latino by the end of this decade. That is a huge growth in the Latino population. And when you look at El Paso County, it is one of 5 counties in Colorado with the highest Latino population growth from 2010 to 2014. And we know through more research that that population is continuing to grow. Our current Latino population in El Paso County is 18% and growing. By 2050, it is projected that the Latino population will be 40% in El Paso County. Those are some dramatic figures that I'm sure many of our community members, our community leaders don't know. We always are talking about values. And to tell you the truth, American values are Latino values. Americans who do not know Latinos misunderstand Latinos predominantly. And we're going to talk briefly about that. So as you can see in this chart, Latinos are a drag on the economy. 54% of Americans who have no Latino acquaintances believe that, while 25% who have Latino acquaintances differ in that. Latinos are stealing American jobs. 54% of Americans who have no Latino acquaintance believe that, while 29% who have Latino acquaintance see that. And then you move over to most Latinos are illegal immigrants. Americans who don't have Latino acquaintances believe that, while it goes down to 27% for those Americans who have Latino acquaintances. So as you can see there, Americans who do not know Latinos are more likely to believe negative stereotypes. As we all know, Latinos are patriots. I had the fortunate opportunity in my full-time job to write an article for the Institute for Veterans and Military Families at Syracuse University during Hispanic Heritage Month about the impact of Latino veterans throughout history in our military. And as you can see here, again, 83% of Latinos believe that they can get ahead and are willing to work hard, while 58% non-Latinos do not believe that. 67% of Latinos believe the United States is the best country in the world, while 58% of non-Latino whites do not believe that. 56% of Latinos believe my children's standard of living will surpass mine, while 36% of non-Latino whites do not believe that. So as you can see there, US Latinos' patriotism rivals and sometimes surpasses non-Latinos. So what is our impact on America's economy? Latinos are known for their entrepreneurship. Latinos are serial entrepreneurs driving small and medium enterprises and job growth. We are one of the largest consumers now in the country, and we continue to grow richer, become better educated, and are becoming better connected. And we also are becoming some of the most productive citizens in America. We're both boosting the US workforce, we're growing state and local tax bases, and supporting our retirees. As you can see there below, there are over 6,000 Hispanic-owned businesses in the Pikes Peak region as of 2017, projected to reach over 9,000 by 2022. So how are we driving business growth? Well, new businesses mean new jobs for all Americans. And what does this look like? US Latinos equal 80% of the total net new business formation from 2007 to 2012. From 2007 to 2015, employment in Latino-owned firms grew by 47%, compared to employment in white-owned firms, which shrank by 6%. And we are consumers, just like all Americans. This is an important figure if you get anything out of this presentation to know. At $2.3 trillion, the US Latino GDP is the 8th largest in the world. Hispanic business sales for 2017 estimates placed growth in El Paso County at $949 million, expected to reach $1.5 billion in 2022, according to the El Paso County Census. You can see the buying power, the growth of business and economy of the Latino population in the United States and here locally in Colorado Springs. Latino incomes are rising fast, accounting for nearly 30% of all US real income growth from 2005 to 2015. Latinos accounted for 24.4% of the total US GDP in 2020. And I know that will continue to grow as our businesses grow and we gain more influence in the right markets. Again, we continue to drive consumption growth. US Latinos equal 79% total net growth in US home ownership in 2018. We're also driving growth in auto sales. Check out these numbers. That's our share of growth, year-over-year sales growth in 2014 from US Latinos in the auto market. Something we don't think about. US Latinos are driving growth in the beauty industry. And you can see across from hand and body lotion, 9.3% increase compared to non-Latinos. So we are great consumers. We drive the economy. We have income. We are becoming better educated, and I believe we're making a difference on the growth of America's economy. So, U.S. Latinos are expanding the economy. We're creating new businesses and jobs for all Americans, driving new demand for U.S. companies, goods, and services, and replenishing an aging workforce with young, well-educated, and entrepreneurial new workers. U.S. businesses, universities, and political leaders and community leaders need to make smart decisions based on data and not misperceptions. So,
outstanding.
that is my briefing there, and I am open for questions.
Thank you for your briefing. Thank you for your briefing, Joe. I think that was really, really excellent content, and the information that you had to share with us, other people need to know. And it's amazing the contributions that are being made by so many people that we don't always think about every day. There's a lot of money going through that population. Can you explain to me why there needs to be a Hispanic chamber in this community in the first place? Why do we need it? Isn't one chamber enough?
Well, good question. I think many Hispanic business owners are comfortable being in their group, but at the same time, we are seeing a greater increase here in Colorado Springs, as an example, of many immigrant Spanish-speaking business owners. So we have the resources and the mechanisms that we're starting to develop to provide that Spanish-speaking training and resources to that group of business owners. We also think there's a need for us because, as you can see, as the Latino market continues to grow, those non-Latino businesses are looking to see how they can penetrate the Hispanic market. And a lot of that comes down to cultural values and lifestyles. Latinos, when they buy a product, if it's a great product, they're going to be committed to that product for a long time. They're very loyal consumers and customers. And we see ourselves as that niche of filling really those needs of small business owners here in Colorado Springs. And we are a diverse and inclusive chamber. A lot of times individuals will see a minority chamber and they'll think, well, I have to be a Black American to be part of this chamber. I have to be Hispanic to be part of this chamber. And that by no means is true. We welcome all businesses, all corporations to build their business, to learn how to interact with the Latino community, build their brands, and be able to penetrate that market, as well as Hispanic businesses are trying to understand and how they penetrate the non-Latino market. How do we create supplier diversity in the market to where big corporations know that we exist and we have companies and businesses that can be those diversity suppliers or diversity suppliers for them.
Awesome. I want to make sure we got time for at least another question. It's 1:27. We got 3 more minutes. Anybody else have a question for President Aldaz? Anybody?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
How do you join the Hispanic Chamber?
It's easy to join. I can go to our website. It's COSCONCILIO.com. I'll put that in the chat for everybody to see.
Okay.
I got it, Joe. Anybody else got a question?
Not a question, but I just told Julia I was going to call her out because she's doing an excellent job trying to connect with other Spanish-speaking attorneys in the community to figure out which lawyers are actually providing high-quality services to Spanish-speaking clients. There are a lot of primary Spanish speakers in our community and not a lot of professionals that are conversant enough in Spanish that they can be effective within the professional setting. So I will just throw it out there. If there are other industries that want to help, maybe our speaker today can be a great resource. And I know Julia will want to be involved in that project.
Right. We can be that conduit. As an example, our board chair, Ramon Alvarez, is now a consultant for the Small Business Development Center, specializing working with those small businesses who are more comfortable speaking in Spanish. And he is providing that service. And we also are going to probably add one more consultant from our board to that group.
Fantastic. You have something, Dr. Thomas?
I just want to say thank you. And, just to build off your question, more of a comment, I think the perception, a way to read your comment of, well, why do we need a Hispanic chamber? I think is a very real question that's being asked for not a so positive answer.
Yep.
And I just want to remind us that when you see culturally specific organizations or groups, it's not to be exclusive. It's really to bring a point of emphasis or a point of focus for the work. And that's what you see a lot of. And so I just want to thank you, President Aldaz, for the work you do in our community, for bringing that point of focus and emphasis to, I think, a community that is really oblivious to the type of data that you just provided, whether it's the economic, impetus of really driving the economy, or just the understanding of the cultural contribution that makes who we are. So thank you so much for bringing that point of focus, to our club and to our community.
Yes.
Thank you. It's been a privilege to be able to provide you a perspective. I hope you learned a little bit today and can take that out into your networks and share. We are always looking for opportunities to present to other organizations like the Rotary, and looking for individuals that are part of this group to hopefully support our work now and in the future.
Yeah, you got it, brother. With that, we're going to go ahead and call this meeting adjourned. It is 1:31. Stay warm. We got snow coming. Wash your hands, take care of each other, and I love you. See y'all next week.